We live in a world where we're told to chase opportunities, chase people, chase recognition. We fight to be heard, to prove our worth, to show up and remind people of our value. But what if I told you that real influence, real respect, doesn't come from chasing, it comes from stepping back? Think about it. How often do we find ourselves over-explaining, over-giving, and overcompensating just to be acknowledged? And yet the moment we step away, the moment we go quiet, something interesting happens. People start noticing. They start wondering. They start feeling the absence. Silence is powerful. It does something that words often fail to do. It forces people to reflect. When you stop explaining yourself, when you stop running after people who don't see your value, you give them space to realize what they're missing. The ones who truly appreciate you will come looking for you, and those who don't, well, they were never meant to stay. This isn't about playing games or manipulation. It's about understanding that influence is not about volume, it's about presence. When you step back, you're not giving up. You're letting people reveal their true intentions. When you stay silent, you allow your actions to speak louder than any argument ever could. So if you ever feel unseen, unappreciated, or undervalued, don't beg for attention. Don't demand respect. Step back, stay silent, watch what happens next. Because those who truly value you will come running, and those who don't, they were never meant to follow you in the first place. When we show up every day consistently giving, supporting, and being available, people naturally start to expect our presence. It's human nature. We take what is constant for granted. The sun rises every morning, the air fills our lungs, and the people who are always there seem, well, permanent. But what happens when something constant suddenly disappears? What happens when you step back, when you remove yourself from a space where you've always been present? The answer is simple. People notice. Think about the last time you lost something, a favorite watch, a book, or even just your phone for a few minutes. And the second it's gone, your mind fixates on it. You check your pockets, retrace your steps, and start thinking about where you last saw it. Now apply that same psychology to people. When someone who is always available suddenly isn't, when the friend who always checks in stops calling, when the coworker who carries most of the load steps away, when the leader who constantly provides direction stays quiet, people start paying attention. It's a wake-up call. And that's the power of absence. See, most people don't realize what they have until it's no longer in front of them. It's not that they don't care, it's that they assume it will always be there. But when you step back, you force a shift in perspective. You create space for others to reflect. And in that space, people either recognize your value or reveal that they never truly appreciated it in the first place. Either way, you gain clarity. Stepping back isn't about being passive. It's about setting boundaries. It's about making a deliberate choice to stop over-explaining, stop over-giving, and stop proving yourself to people who should already see your worth. It's about realizing that your presence should be earned, not assumed. Consider a leader in a workplace. If that leader is always available, always solving problems, always taking on more than they should, the team may begin to rely on them too heavily. But if that leader steps back, even briefly, something interesting happens. People step up. They realize how much that leader was carrying. Some may rise to the occasion, taking responsibility in ways they never have before. Others may struggle, revealing gaps that need to be addressed. Either way, the absence of the leader creates a reaction, one that exposes the truth of the situation. Now think about relationships, friendships, family, even romantic relationships. When one person is always initiating, always checking in, always making the effort, the dynamic becomes one-sided. The other person gets comfortable, maybe even complacent. But the moment that consistent person steps back, everything shifts. If the other person values the relationship, they will reach out. They will make an effort. But if they don't, then the absence only confirms what was already true. They were never as invested as they seemed. Stepping back is not about playing games. It's not about manipulation or trying to make people chase you. It's about understanding that your time, energy, and presence are valuable. If you always make yourself available, people may forget just how much you bring to the table. But when you remove yourself even temporarily, you give them a chance to feel the weight of your absence. Think about the greatest influencers and leaders in history. They didn't demand attention. They didn't beg for recognition. They led by example. And when the time was right, they knew when to step back and let their presence or their absence speak for itself. It's a powerful realization when you understand that you don't have to prove your worth to people who truly see it. You don't have to fight for attention, for recognition, for appreciation. Sometimes the most impactful thing you can do is to remove yourself and see who notices, and the ones who do, they're the ones who truly value you. Silence is often misunderstood. Many people equate silence with weakness, passivity, or even surrender. But in reality, silence is one of the most powerful strategies a person can use. It is in silence that people reflect, that truths are revealed, and that influence is truly tested. Words can be debated, argued, and ignored, but silence is undeniable. It forces people to sit with their own thoughts, confront their own actions, and to realize what they may have overlooked. When you choose silence, you remove the noise. You take away the distractions that allow others to justify their actions or inactions. Think about the last time you were in an argument, and instead of responding with words, you simply stayed silent. That silence likely spoke louder than anything you could have said. It made the other person uncomfortable, made them question, and in many cases, made them rethink their position. Silence forces a confrontation not with you, but with themselves. People are conditioned to respond to words. They are used to explanations, justifications, and debates. But when you withhold words, when you stop explaining yourself, you shift the dynamic entirely. Instead of pushing for someone to see your value, you create the space for them to realize it on their own. And when that realization happens, it is far more powerful than anything you could have said. Silence is also an incredible teacher. It reveals who truly cares, who truly listens, and who is genuinely invested. If you always speak up, always reach out, always give people answers, they never have to put in the effort. But when you stay silent, you give them a chance to show their intentions. Do they seek you out? Do they make an effort? Or do they let the silence stretch, comfortable in your absence? That answer tells you everything you need to know. In leadership, silence is an invaluable tool. A great leader does not fill every moment with instructions, corrections, or opinions. Instead, they create space for others to step up, to think for themselves, to take ownership. A leader who always talks may be heard, but a leader who knows when to stay silent is respected. Because in that silence, their presence is still felt. Their influence is not in their words, but in the space they leave for others to grow. In personal relationships, silence is equally powerful. How many times have you tried to explain your feelings to someone, only to feel like they are not truly listening? How many times have you repeated yourself, hoping that this time they will finally understand? And yet nothing changes. That's because words, when overused, lose their impact. But when you stop talking, when you step back and simply allow silence to do the work, people are forced to confront what they may have been avoiding. If they care, they will lean in. If they don't, they won't. Either way, you get your answer. Silence is not about giving up, it's about giving space. Space for others to recognize what they have taken for granted. Space for people to show their true colors. Space for you to see who actually values you without needing constant reminders. Some people will come running, realizing what they stand to lose. Others will fade into the background, revealing that they were never truly there to begin with. And that is the beauty of silence. It is not a loss of power. It is a shift in power. When you stop speaking, you force others to fill the gap. When you stop explaining, you allow others to think for themselves. And when you stop chasing, you see who is willing to chase you. So the next time you feel unheard, unappreciated, or undervalued, resist the urge to argue, to plead, to over-explain. Instead, embrace silence. Because silence is not empty, it is full of answers. And the people who truly matter, they will hear it louder than any words you could ever say. People are naturally drawn to what they can't easily have. It's a fundamental part of human psychology. When something feels just out of reach, it becomes more desirable. We see this in every aspect of life, in relationships, in business, in leadership, and even in marketing. The moment something appears too available, too easy to attain, its perceived value decreases. But when it becomes scarce, distant, or exclusive, people suddenly want it more. This is why stepping back can be such a powerful shift in influence. When you are always present, always available, and always giving, people can start to take that for granted. It's not necessarily because they don't care, but because your presence is constant. It's predictable. And when something is predictable, it no longer captures attention in the same way. But the moment you pull away, something changes. That absence creates a space, one that makes people realize what they might lose. Think about the times in life when you've suddenly found yourself chasing something, maybe a person, an opportunity, or even a goal. Chances are, what triggered that pursuit was the feeling that it was slipping away. The job that initially seemed unexciting suddenly becomes appealing when you hear someone else is being considered for it. The friend you always assume would be there suddenly feels more important when they stop calling. The leader who once gave constant feedback is suddenly missed when they stop offering guidance. In each case, the shift is not about words or actions, it's about perception. Scarcity increases value. The less available something is, the more people want it. Luxury brands understand this perfectly. They create exclusivity, limiting access to their products, making people desire them even more. This same principle applies to people. When you step back, when you create space, when you stop making yourself easily accessible, you naturally become more valued. People begin to seek you out, not because you asked them to, but because your absence made them realize your worth. This is not about manipulation. It's not about playing games or trying to make people beg for your attention. It's about understanding that influence is about perception, not persuasion. The more you push, the more resistance you create. But when you pull back, you invite curiosity. You make people wonder. And in that wondering, they begin to chase. This is especially true in leadership. A leader who constantly demands attention, approval, or validation from their team often loses respect. But a leader who carries themselves with quiet confidence, who speaks only when necessary, who doesn't force their presence but instead allows others to come to them, this is the leader people admire. Not because they are loud, but because their presence commands respect even in silence. In relationships, the same dynamic applies. When you give too much without receiving the same effort in return, the balance is off. People value what they have to work for. When something is freely given, it's easily overlooked. But when you step back, when you allow space for the other person to make an effort, you see their true investment. If they come toward you, it's because they value you. If they don't, you have your answer without ever having to ask. The psychology of influence is not about forcing people to see your value. It's about creating an environment where they realize it on their own. The best way to do that? Distance, space. A quiet retreat that allows the other person to feel what life is like without you always being the one to initiate, to offer, to give. This is why stepping back is so effective. It allows people to recognize not just intellectually, but emotionally what they stand to lose. And emotional realization is far more powerful than logical reasoning. You can tell someone your worth over and over again, but until they feel it, until they experience your absence, it may not fully register. So when you find yourself in a situation where you feel unseen, unappreciated, or undervalued, resist the urge to overcompensate. Don't push harder. Don't argue for your worth. Instead, take a step back. Let the silence and the distance do the work. If they value you, they will come to you. And then you have already won, because you now have the clarity to walk away from those who were never truly invested in the first place. Respect is not something that can be begged for, demanded, or forced. It is something that is earned, and yet so many people spend their lives chasing validation, constantly proving their worth to those who should already recognize it. They explain themselves over and over. They give more than they receive, and they tolerate being overlooked, hoping that one day those around them will finally see their value. But the truth is, the more you try to convince someone to respect you, the less they will. Real respect is never won through persuasion. It is established through presence, boundaries, and the willingness to walk away from those who do not see your worth. When you stop trying to force people to appreciate you, something remarkable happens. The ones who truly value you will step forward. The ones who never did will fade away, and that is exactly the clarity you need. You don't need everyone to acknowledge your worth, you need the right people to. And the only way to know who those people are is to stop handing out your time, energy, and attention to those who haven't earned it. Too often, people confuse kindness with unlimited access. The more you give, the more people expect. The more available you are, the less they feel the need to reach out. But when you pull back, when you stop giving without reciprocation, you shift the balance. You show people that your presence is a privilege, not a given, and those who truly respect you will adjust. They will step up. They will meet you where you deserve to be met. Think about a leader who constantly micromanages, who always seeks approval, who tries too hard to be liked. Their team may comply, but they don't truly respect them. Now think about the leader who carries themselves with quiet confidence, who does not need to chase validation, but instead commands respect through their actions. They don't demand loyalty, they inspire it. They don't beg for respect, they earn it by the way they conduct themselves. And because of that, people willingly follow them, not out of obligation, but out of genuine admiration. This principle applies to every relationship in life. If you find yourself always proving your worth in a friendship, always being the one to initiate, always tolerating less than you deserve, ask yourself why. Why are you trying so hard to earn a place in someone's life when respect and effort should be mutual? The same goes for romantic relationships. If someone truly values you, you won't have to convince them to. They will show it through their actions, their consistency, and their willingness to meet you halfway. The key to earning respect is understanding that not everyone is meant to appreciate your value, and that's okay. Your energy is finite, your time is precious, and the more you waste it on people who take you for granted, the less you have for those who truly see your worth. The people who matter will never need to be begged. They will recognize what you bring to the table without you having to prove it. When you stop chasing, when you stop explaining, when you stop tolerating less than you deserve, you change the game. You no longer play by rules that diminish your worth. Instead, you set a new standard. One that says, if you want to be in my life, show me. If you respect me, prove it. If you value me, let your actions reflect it. And if they don't, then you walk away with your head held high, knowing that your worth was never tied to their recognition in the first place. Respect is not begged for, it is not negotiated, it is established the moment you decide that you will no longer fight for a place in the lives of people who do not appreciate you, because the ones who do, they will never need convincing. True leadership is not about forcing people to listen, demanding their attention, or constantly proving your worth. It is about presence, about how you carry yourself, and about the energy you bring into every room. The most influential people are not those who shout the loudest or push the hardest. They are the ones who lead with quiet confidence, who know that respect and influence are not taken but given by those who recognize true value. When you constantly try to convince people to follow you, you place yourself in a position of weakness. You are telling them that their validation is more important than your own self-respect. But when you step back and allow people to make their own decisions, you give them the space to choose you willingly, and that choice is where real loyalty is born. People don't want to be pressured, they want to be inspired. They don't want to be forced into admiration, they want to feel it naturally. Look at the leaders and figures who have truly changed the world. They did not chase people's approval. They did not demand that others followed them. Instead, they focused on their vision, their mission, their purpose, and in doing so, they attracted the right people. Their presence alone commanded respect, not because they insisted on it, but because they lived in a way that made others want to listen. This applies in everyday life as well. Think about the difference between someone who constantly tries to prove their importance in a conversation versus someone who simply carries themselves with quiet assurance. The former demands attention, the latter naturally receives it. There is something undeniably powerful about a person who knows their worth and does not need external validation to confirm it. People are drawn to that energy. They are drawn to those who do not seek approval but instead embody confidence, integrity, and purpose. Stepping back is not about disengagement or indifference. It is about understanding that true influence comes not from chasing people, but from becoming the kind of person that others naturally gravitate toward. When you stop forcing things, relationships, recognition, success, you make room for the right people and opportunities to come to you. And the ones who do, they are there because they truly see your value, not because you beg them to acknowledge it. In personal relationships, this is equally important. Love, friendship, and respect should never be forced. If you have to constantly prove yourself to someone, then the foundation of that relationship is weak. The strongest bonds are built when both parties willingly choose to be there, when effort is mutual, and when appreciation is freely given. When you step back, you allow people to show you where they truly stand. You give them the space to come toward you on their own rather than pulling them in out of fear of losing them. The same principle applies in business, in leadership, in any situation where influence matters. People follow those who stand firm in their beliefs, not those who constantly try to win them over. If you have to convince someone to value your work, to recognize your skills, or to support your vision, then you are wasting energy in the wrong place. The best leaders, the most successful people, are those who do not chase opportunities. They create value, and in doing so, the right opportunities come to them. There's a reason why the strongest individuals in any field, business, politics, sports, art, carry themselves with a quiet sense of self-assurance. They do not waste time arguing for their worth. They do not need to be the loudest in the room. Instead, they focus on doing great work, on being the best version of themselves, and because of that, others take notice. The right people seek them out. So the next time you find yourself trying too hard to make people listen, trying too hard to be seen, trying too hard to earn respect, pause. Step back. Let your actions, your presence, and your confidence do the work, because true leadership is not about pulling people in. It is about standing so firmly in your own value that others naturally come to you.